Welcome to the only show that dares to give us alternative solutions to major problems that affect you and me. Today we were supposed to look into problems that our girls go through working in the Gulf. But following your numerous requests to give solutions to this LGBTQ issue, here we are to delve into the same. Welcome. This is Plan B with Anthony Kirori. Anthony.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So the court has pronounced itself on the matters of LGBTQ.
Yes.
Why are we here? How are we here? Why is this a discussion? How do you proceed?
Well, why we are here, we know, because the court pronounced itself. What could happen from the legal standpoint, the Supreme Court could be asked to make a review. Only 5 judges made that decision, so they could be asked to make a 7-judge bench review. If things go south, then we could go to the East African Court, and if things still go south, we can go to the African Court.
Don't you think going the court way is a lengthy process and we could be here forever?
Yes, it could take maybe 10, maybe up to 50 years.
So what do we need to do?
The other solution would be for Parliament to either come up with laws or change the Constitution.
But our Parliament is known to be compromised. Alternatively, now that the people who are funding this whole agenda have deep pockets, they can even sponsor their own people into Parliament to make sure that we don't change this whole narrative.
That is true. And that's why now we come to the Plan B. What is that one single solution? What is that one thing we need to do to make sure that we put this thing to rest? It's very simple. For the Kenyan people, for us to go to a referendum and vote either to accept or reject this as a way of life. That's the best way to go through it.
And who is supposed to spearhead this whole process?
The process can be easily spearheaded by the church because the church is everywhere. And then the question is formatted, and then we go to the polls. The beauty is, once we have it in the Constitution, that's the end of the issue. And for instance, our current president and the former president, when they went to visit Western countries, they were asked about what's their view on homosexuality. In fact, there's a president who came here in Kenya and asked the president at the time, what's the view? And why they were pushing them to embrace it. However, if we put it in the Constitution and we reject it in the Constitution, then nobody can ever ask any president anything because it is not the president's view anymore. It's the Kenyan people who have said. And the beauty of this is, we put in our Constitution, there are other African countries who are undergoing the same pressure. So even other African countries can put it in their own constitutions, and not just African countries, even beyond. There are countries in the West that do not want this. There are people in the West who do not want this as their lifestyle. But the people who are funding this agenda have deep pockets, and they know how to make sure there's enough noise about it. So let the people decide. And the best way is have it enshrined in the Constitution. And that will be that. That is the Plan B to this particular problem.
Maybe trying to criminalize the whole thing, or maybe banning this whole discussion around LGBTQ being a Western agenda. And Kenya being a third world, and most countries in Africa and maybe Asia, where this whole thing is being pushed, and we are being forced to embrace the same.
Yes.
Don't you think if we don't embrace or go this direction, we will be starved of aid?
If you are to Google if you are to check for the 10 countries with the least natural resources, you'll find Vatican City, Costa Rica. You'll also find Switzerland, Belgium, Japan, Singapore, among others. Now, those countries, especially Switzerland, Belgium, Singapore, and Japan, their quality of life is much higher than ours here. Yet, they have no natural resources. However, there's one thing they have in common that we also have: brains. So, people with no natural resources are using their brains to lead a proper quality of life. Yet us, with the natural resources, we are begging from them. So what do we need to do? This is a no-brainer. We need to engage our brains, utilize our natural resources in such a way that we should no longer be receiving aid from the West. It is us who should be giving the West aid. Do you know, for instance, over 60% of the arable land in the world for agricultural purposes is found in Africa? Sure. Yet we are starving. Why? We need not to put ourselves in such conditions. Instead, we need to engage our brains and come up with plans and implement them. In a few years' time, it is us who will be giving aid to the West. So the issue of aid should not arise at all.
Wow. Quite impressive. You seem to be advocating for a total overhaul of our constitution, or maybe a revolution. How are you ready for that?
I'm not advocating for a revolution per se. Basically, all I'm simply saying, we have a problem. I watched on TV the other day, in fact, since this thing was pronounced, but especially early this week on almost all the stations. The church leaders are stressed. When I came from church on Sunday, people were talking, they are very stressed. This is really eating. People don't have peace of mind. But the solution is so simple. Let's have it enshrined in our constitution. And that is that. That's the ultimate guide. We put in the constitution, choose to reject it, that will be the final thing. So all I'm simply saying is, we need our peace of mind. At the same time, we also need to live the way we need to live, and we should not live by the standards of other people who are purportedly giving us aid that we really don't need. So let's enshrine the constitution and also use the natural resources that we have. We engage our brains to use the natural resources that we have to uplift our quality of life. I believe Africa should be in a position to give aid to the rest of the world.
Thank you very much, Anthony. So what are your thoughts on this whole discussion? Anthony has tried to give solutions that he believes will put this matter to bed. So for any queries, concerns, you can reach us down with by using the email addressing scrolling down below. Use also what we call the comment section. Remember to like this video and share it widely. That has been Plan B with Anthony Kirori. I've been your host, Wanjohi Mwangi. See you next time.